Good afternoon and greetings to all distinguished speakers and assembled participants who have found time to join this important and timely conversation about Operation Sindoor, India's paradigm-shifting action against cross-border terror and sponsors. Ambassador Pankaj Saran, convener NatStrat and former deputy NSA, Ambassador Manjeev Puri, India's former ambassador to EU, and member of multi-party delegation which visited different countries recently, Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain, former commander Indian Army's 15 Corps, Air Vice Marshal Anil Gulani, Ambassador Yash Sinha, India's former High Commissioner to UK and former CIC Chief Information Commissioner, Lieutenant General Raj Shukla, member UPSC and well-known defense expert, General Rakesh Sharma, distinguished fellow VIF. Excellencies, representatives of think tanks, media, corporates, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, thank you all for finding time to join us for this important conversation on a rainy day. Monsoon in India is often associated with romance, music, and dance, but it also means waterlogging and painful traffic jams. So we really appreciate that you could find time to come. I'm delighted to welcome you to this conference on Operation Sindoor, which is being held 3 months after the Pahalgam terror attack that plunged the country in collective grief and trauma. We are still recovering from the pain and anguish of this national tragedy. This conference today, comprising 2 panel discussions, has been conceived and designed to brainstorm on different facets of cross-border terrorism that continue to pose a potent threat to national security and well-being of India. The first panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen, we are extremely fortunate to have such a distinguished, star-studded panel comprising eminent diplomats and experts. Let me briefly set the context for today's conference. We are meeting at a time when Operation Sindoor is back in the limelight. 2.5 months later, there are many burning questions that remain to be answered, and it will be our effort in this panel discussion to examine these questions in an analytical and objective manner. These questions will be debated afresh in the National Parliament in the coming days. The Pahalgam massacre had many dimensions and motivations, religious, ideological, economical, and geopolitical, and we'll be looking at each of these aspects carefully. In his stirring address to the nation on May 12, Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveiled key elements of his new doctrine and new normal approach of dealing with Pakistan-sponsored terror. First and foremost, Operation Sindoor, as stated earlier, is now India's official policy against terrorism. What it means is that no terrorist attack would go unpunished, and India would respond on its own terms and at a time of its own choosing. Second, India will not be deterred by nuclear blackmail. Third, India will not differentiate between the government sponsoring terrorism and the masterminds of terrorism. Fourth, talks with Pakistan can only resume after it destroys terror infrastructure. As Prime Minister made it very clear, terror and talks cannot go together, terror and trade cannot go together, water and blood cannot flow together. Having set the new normal and a new benchmark in its approach towards cross-border terror, India is now engaged in swinging the war of narratives. Understanding your enemy is essential to winning the battle, and one does not need to read the legendary Chinese strategy Sun Tzu to know this. Operation Sindoor is still on. What it means is that India cannot afford to let its guards down. Eternal vigilance is the only way to go. In the small hours of May 7, 2025, a very big and bold idea took wings as Indian jets pulverized 9 terror camps in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and Punjab province. The calibrated paradigm-shifting retaliation against the bushes of Pahalgam, which took barely 22 minutes, ended decades of strategic patience, ushering in a new era of offensive defense. My special thanks to honorable members of parliament who have found time in the middle of the monsoon session of parliament to join us and share their insights. I deeply appreciate that in the midst of their multiple commitments, they could come here and keep their date with this conference. Honorable Member of Parliament, Parajita Sarangi, Honorable MP Priyanka Chaturvedi, Honorable Member of Parliament, Brijlalji, Dr. Amar Patnaik, former MP and BJD leader, Ambassador Sujan Chinoy, Director General Manohar Parikar, Institute of Defense Studies and Analysis. Excellencies, representatives of think tanks, media, ladies and gentlemen, friends, I am delighted to welcome you to this timely conference, which is being held 3 months after the Pahalgam terror attack that plunged the nation in collective grief and trauma. The wounds will never heal for the victims and their loved ones, but the least we as a nation can do is to resolve and strategize to ensure that these barbaric attacks are not repeated in future. This conference aims to do precisely this. In the first session, we heard very eminent diplomats and experts speaking on different aspects of Operation Sindoor. Conference is part of a series of events we are organizing to mark the 10th anniversary of our organization, India Rights Network, and the 5th anniversary of Center for Global India Insights, an emerging think tank focused on global affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, let me briefly set the context for today's conference. We are meeting at a time when Operation Sindoor is back in the headlines again, and people are still searching for answers to burning questions about the identity of the butchers of Pahalgam and what led to such a horrific tragedy in the first place. These questions will be debated afresh in the National Parliament in the coming days, and we are fortunate to have outstanding parliamentarians to share their assessment and insights. Looking ahead, we need to ask some difficult questions. That is how a conference of this nature differs from rhetoric and scoring brownie points. Parts of terror infrastructure in Pakistan have been destroyed by Indian jets and drones, but will it qualify as justice for the victims and widows of Pahalgam? The perpetrators and handlers should be identified with precision and prosecuted without delay, even if it means going to ends of the earth, as Prime Minister Modi said. The Pahalgam massacre had many dimensions and motivations: religious, ideological, economical, and geopolitical. Ideologically, it was designed to polarize India by sowing discord along religious lines. The religion-based targeting of tourists by terrorists betrayed an insidious communal agenda. Secondly, the terror attack was an act of economic warfare designed to destroy the tourism-centric economy of Jammu and Kashmir.